Well, hi everyone. Welcome to Glitch 2600, and this is our normal Geek Out. We're trying a little different setup for once. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it. Hopefully, you're able to find it because I'm using a software called Restream, and that Restream added a new functionality where I can post events ahead of time and go both to a YouTube event and a Facebook event at the same time. This is my first time trying it out since I'm told that it now works, because at first with the software I use it didn't quite work. And suppose I'm supposed to be able to get comments and everything, so we'll see. We'll make sure everything's up and up. If you're having trouble with this, just let us know and we'll still get your questions answered live. But what is this? Like I said, it's the Geek Out, and I'm Glitch. What do? We help you with your tech and geek photography, video, computers questions. You can ask them live on the air. All you have to do is post Q or Q space and then your question, and I will answer it live. If you don't catch this live on the air, you can still ask your questions. Either send it to us through the chat on Facebook or on YouTube, or you can post it on here and we'll still come and find it. Nice thing about technology is it sends me the cool little notification, so I'm going to know you sent it anyway. So, just while I'm thinking on it, you might want to know how to find us. If you're watching on YouTube, then just know you can come catch us on Facebook. Vice versa, if you're on Facebook, you can come catch us on YouTube. Just hang out right there. And if you're watching us on TV, you can use that handy dandy QR code. Just point your camera at it, your smartphone, and it will ask, do you want to open up this link? And you go, yes, and then subscribe. So that way you can get notifications. So as they say, ring the bell at that point. The handy dandy subscribe, which I put right in front of me. It looks great. But that's okay. Let me kill those out. So I'm playing with all my buttons now. But again, just a reminder, you can ask these tech questions, you can ask these geek questions, and we'll go through it. If I was really prepped, I would have had my stuff for my exposure triangle and a few other things just to see what you guys might want to talk on, but I was not as prepped as I should be. I'm not going to lie, it's been a long weekend, but I want to get a live out there. And so that's what we're doing. So again, feel free, ask those questions, post them up, and I'll be happy to start answering them. I'm going to take a drink from my handy dandy coffee, which I was reading a thing online, and I didn't even think about it before, that maybe I shouldn't be drinking coffee or certain things while I'm on the air. Some people asked, what type of stuff should you drink while you're on the air? And one person said, well, don't drink something cold. It changes the timbre of your voice. Don't drink something hot. It changes the timbre of your voice. You do this, it dries you out. You do this, drink lukewarm water with a sip of tea because it helps maintain the vocal cords. And someone who's there and coughs a fair amount, maybe I should think about that, but I'm also a very big coffee addict, which means I'm going to drink my coffee. Even better if I open the lid. It's been that day. It's Sunday. How are you guys a Sunday going? If you're new, say hi. I'd love to know you're new here. Even if you're catching on the replay, say hi. I'd love to know what brought you here. And obviously those tech and geek questions. So we can answer all things photography, all things computers. Heck, if it has electronics in it, there's a good chance if I don't know it, I can figure it out for you. And that's my background. That's my superpower. It's the mutant power that people didn't know that they needed until it's time of COVID and everything is breaking, and technology. But, so much better. But we've got new toys. New toys we can talk about. Here. So if I put them within arm's reach, I always think my arms are way longer than they are, and then find out that they're not. But as a hint, this is the hint for what the new toy is. Now, I don't have it hooked up quite this second, but we can, and you can see what it sounds like. But for those not knowing, this is what they call an XLR microphone cable. If it focused, or don't focus. All right, never mind. It doesn't want to focus. It just likes me too much to focus. Oh well. But one side, this is a male to female. So one side is bass like that, in that it can take those in, and then you see the other side goes. So that'll be the handy dandy little, and as I'm just obviously liking the word handy dandy, or the phrase today, handy dandy. But that's a little hint for what we got. We got 2 new toys. Because as you guys know, I work on a couple of podcasts, where I work on a podcast, and I work on live shows, not just our own. I work on a couple other ones. So if you've been following along, you know this is what we do. But we got from MXL a beautiful mic. We looked at a couple different ones. We got a beautiful condenser microphone. So most of the time you hear me use this. It's called a Yeti. And there's different types of Yetis, but that's the Yeti I use. The thing that's on here is called a shock mount, so that when I tap it, you'll still hear it, but it doesn't pick up so much when people are walking. But this is a USB microphone, which is fine and works well for a lot of things. But this one also has modes on there. So it can be stereo mode, so it can record front and back behind it. So if this was the Yeti, you can record on this side and that side. So if you were interviewing someone, you could do that. It has an omnidirectional mode. It has what they call a cardioid, yes, mode, where it's supposed to pick up more from the front than the back. And then there's a stereo mode, where it kind of picks up all around, but side to side, so you get that right-left audio. Well, it's great, and it's a great also condenser microphone, which means it has to have power. But you know, it's a little limiting. It's a good first level. You know, it's $100 microphone, and it's great. Like I said, it comes with this nice little mount that you can put it on, which is kind of a pain in the butt to screw it in and out. I recommend getting a microphone mount or an arm to bring in. But at a certain point, you want to bring in more of those. You want to be able to control it. So this, I can turn the volume up and down. There's a headphone jack, and I can turn the gain on the back up and down. But I can't necessarily put it through a mixer, although I will tell you I have a hack for that. But this uses an XLR. So a little bit more power and a little bit more audio fidelity. It's going to sound a little bit cleaner. Don't get me wrong, the Blue, by Blue, the Yeti's really, really powerful. But I want to bring this in through a mixer. And if I bring it in through a mixer, I can do a few different things. I can bring it through a DAW, which is just a digital, we can get into what it stands for, but it's basically software to make you sound better. Now, when we're live streaming, we need good sound, but we don't necessarily need super, super high end. I can do some cool effects with the new one, but we only need to go so far because of that. But if I'm maybe wanting to record a podcast, it becomes a little bit more when there's not the video for them to forgive on there, where it's only audio. They're going to want a certain amount of quality, and I might want to mic up multiple people. Even in this case, I could have multiple people on stage and want to mic them up. And sometimes it's good to have a good lapel mic, which is also normally a cardioid or a super cardioid. But in this case, I like condenser microphones. The downside, there's 2 different styles. You can get a dynamic, well, there's ribbon style too, but there's a dynamic microphone and there's a condenser microphone. So condensers require, it's just a different mechanism inside. And so sound is a little bit different from its diaphragm and how it activates that diaphragm. The dynamic uses an actual diaphragm, and it's both of them are sturdy. Dynamic is a little bit more sturdy than a condenser, but a condenser sounds better for human voice, where a dynamic picks up less ambient audio. So a lot of times those handhelds that you have and you see are going to be dynamic mics. But a lot of times for podcasters and different parts, they're going to use the cardioid because they're going to get it close, and then they're going to mix out that ambient. They're going to cut out that low range and some of that high range. On a good mixer, you can do both. And that's even what these switches on the back is, what they call a low cut filter. If I will focus, come on, focus system. There we go. You can see that little switch. It's for whether it's a high cut or low pass. And then on the other side, it's if you want to kind of take out some of the power of the mic. You can it's called a 10 decibel pad. And then on the front is marked which side is the front, and that's the symbol for cardioid, so you know which one it is. But you see, nice little beautiful mic. What I love about this mic is it was marked before all the COVID stuff. And this is the MXL 770. And it was marked before COVID that it was going to be a $160 microphone. But you can find it on Amazon right now with a good XLR cable. Now, I will say I like this XLR cable better than the one that came with it. The better your XLR, the less noise you'll hear in the background. If you turned your gain up all the way. And I did some tests with that, and we can show you. But with that, and really, you can almost see how this one works on the inside. That's what I love about it. Let's see if we can get it. You can see that little metal plate. That's what makes a condenser. Is this metal plate vibrates as opposed to working on an actual like plastic diaphragm. But that requires power, what we call phantom power. But it's this MXL 770, and you can get them in a kit for around $80. 85, I think, is what with that. And it came with a pop filter, which just kills those plosives. I have a little, on this thing, I have a nice little windsock, which also kind of helps with that, but it helps those P's and different plosives to not pop so loud. And so it comes with one of those, and then it came with the cable, and then it comes with this nice kit, and it actually comes with its own shock mount. And what's nice about this shock mount is that you can squeeze it and just stick it down in there. So if you squeeze and press that in there, then it just helps, because these are just little rubber bands. That means if someone's walking by and this is shaking, we're not going to hear so much of that. That's what a shock mount does. That's the beauty of a shock mount. If you ever have stuff on a table with a microphone, you tap the table, you always hear it. But with a shock mount, you'll hear it a lot less. It basically muffles it quite a bit or completely cuts it out. I mean, if you would have heard the stuff before I had a shock mount, if you go way back, you'll hear it from time to time, but a lot of times I had it off so that if anyone walked or if it was on the carpet, that way it was a little bit more muffled. Or if I had this thing on a desk, I would sit there and put, a towel or something or a mouse pad underneath it just to get that little bit better sound if I hit. But yeah, this is the nice little MXL. They make a $990, but for the price, the 770 is actually, in my opinion, and looking at its specs, a better microphone. So this is a great one to get into. Yeah, you get what you pay for the most part, but this is actually a steal, considering it's supposed to be a $150, $160 microphone made by Marshall. MXL is an offshoot of Marshall, and it's made by them, so it's got good components in it, and they're selling it cheap. So you can get a $300 microphone that's going to have a little bit better sound. You're going to get a little bit better, richer tones, a little truer, but you can do a lot of that through that DAW too. You can kind of bring those up. Now, it's just like with photography. If you have a crappy lens, you're working with what you got. If you use crappy ingredients to make a pizza, you can still make a pretty good pizza, but is it going to be as good as if you have fresh ingredients, if you have fresh pepperoni, no, definitely it's not going to be quite as good. So this one's really good for the bang for the buck, but yeah, if you went with a $300 one, you probably get a little bit more. But in these days, and starting out, if you're watching this and learning that part, you probably are not ready for the $300 one. Heck, for what I do, I don't even necessarily need the $300 one. Although, who knows, maybe I'll get some music going on in this in the future. But having said that, that's what this one is. And I like it. I use this little quick mount, which is great because it snaps in, so it allows me to take each microphone off my stand. So there's another end. You can kind of see this little clip. Well, maybe, if it focuses. Go like that. There we go. Kind of see that little clip. So there's a piece that comes up in there and then holds it in place, and the microphone sits on top. And what's nice is the bottom part then sits on the stand, and I can trade them off. I just push a button, release it. So like this one, I can trade them between a floor standing, this arm, and then if I ever get a desk one, I can switch between them. So I'll have that. And it comes with a nice little adapter, so if you have different styles, and you need more than just the standard size on the bottom, it allows you to adapt that. But let me set that down because that's only half of the new toys. And I do love, it comes with extra bungees on the inside, and it comes with this case. And I mean, getting a good hard case. I looked at another one by Sterling, and the one from Sterling was, you know, same price, $100, and came with a padded case. It was, and truthfully, compared up the sound, and I thought the MXL sounded like a better microphone. Theirs was the ST150 or 151, and Sterling's one was a beautiful looking mic. I actually like this one better. It's a little shorter. The Sterling one was about that much bigger, a little bit more narrow, but I think this one had better sound. And it, if you're curious, you can go check out. There's a podcast called Boozy Banter. If you listen to really the last few episodes, you'll hear we switched to those mics at that point. Really, the last one we did kind of a video one with it, so we had multiple people, and we did it quick for the holiday. So don't judge that one. But if you go back one, that'll be using just the MXL mics. And if you go back, so if you don't look at the current one, go back essentially 2 episodes, which I think is episode 11. You'll hear the MXL. If you go to episode 10, you'll hear the Sterling used by Matt. So the other fun toy we got, and I'm not endorsed, so we're going to cover this in depth maybe at some date, is the Zoom LiveTrack L8 8-track mixer. Now they have a new PodTrack 8, which I'm salivating over. But the downside with the LiveTrack or the PodTrack 8 is it doesn't have a few features that this one has, and vice versa, which of course is frustrating, because I kind of wanted to return it. The PodTrack one costs an extra $100, but it looked cool, and it has more pads on it, what they call sound pads, and more other pieces. Here, if I can move this over, we'll see all of this fun stuff. This is how you know I'm a geek, because I keep putting it back in the case stuff, because it's the new toy. So as the new toy, it gets special treatment. It comes with a lot of stuff in the box. So it comes with a USB cable, which you'll see why that's important. And it comes with a TRS cable, which we can talk. There's TRRS and there's TRS. And it comes with a nice little USB power adapter. So just a standard little power to USB adapter. Nothing too crazy there. But so we look into this, close that up. We'll show you the actual PodTrack here, or the LiveTrack. It's a nice little unit. You can see I've messed with some settings here. But on the back, it's where you can stick, if I go right there, a little SD card, which is pretty good. It's got a spot for a Kensington lock. So if you want to, you can lock this to your desk, and at that point, no one can walk away with it. And then it's got the on-off switch. And underneath, what's really cool about this one, so it takes USB, that's where it gets its power. It doesn't have a separate DC power. That's what's nice about the PodTrack, is it does have separate DC power, but really, if you're using this out in the field, you're going to connect it to a computer and it'll get power from there, or you can connect it to a power, bank at that point. And then the other cool part is it takes batteries. So if you want to, you can run it off batteries for a chunk of time. You just pop that open, and you can fit, I think it's 4. Yes, 4 AA batteries. So that's pretty nice and neat. But it's because it has this built-in recorder functions. So it can be a recorder, do effects, mixer, and have recorded scenes. And these are all little digital dials, which means they can turn past. They don't just stop. So I could turn indefinitely, but you'll see little lights pop on here as we do that. But compared to the live track one, there's times where, yes, I want to be able to unplug without this thing dying, which is why putting batteries in it would be smart, because then if I have to unplug it from the computer, it wouldn't necessarily just die. But it can have 8 inputs. So you have 6 microphones, and these two, you'll see, well, you don't see on there. It says high Z, low Z, or you can turn high Z on and off, or minus 26 dB. And this has this little phantom power. Remember I said condenser microphones need power. So as it comes through, this one I can plug the first 2 really easily, guitars and other things that need that high Z capable coming through. Sorry, I can't. And then these last 2 take that kind of standard, quarter headphone jack too, so you can go off there. So you can use that for, guitars too. You can go off to a computer. There's nice little cables for that. It has USB buttons, or I can bring a phone in using this cable or a USB to TRS. And it does something called mix minus. And that mix minus is important because mix minus means to take all the audio from here except for the phone. So it shoots it back to the phone and doesn't give the phone's audio. And why is that important? Well, how many times have we been on a meeting or you hear on the radio them go, hey, could you turn down the radio in the background? Because it starts to cause an echo. The radio is coming back in and is broadcasting it back, so it goes, and you get this increasing audio tone, which, and it gets louder and louder and louder. Well, if you do an interview and bring someone in using, let's say, Skype or a different Google voicemail, because maybe you don't want to give out your actual phone number on a show, like we might be doing, then it allows me to hook this up, bring it in, listen to the caller through that, and they can hear the rest of the show because it's coming back through the phone to them, but without it echoing. So they're not getting that whole hearing themselves. So when they say hi, they don't get hi, 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 hi. They get louder. Now, these things have sound pads. The new ones have bigger sound pads. This allows me to program in, or can have a laugh track, so when I tell a funny joke, and instead of stuff, I can either program it to be crickets, so you just hear cricket, cricket, cricket in the background, or, I can program it in to do much like I do here, that if I say something really funny, we go, yay, because I'm then thinking I'm amazing. Or I can program in intros for shows or audios for the podcast. So if I do like the boozy banter one, it comes through there. The downside with this one is if I plug in anything here and I change this off like to USB, which allows me to route audio through the computer back, it means I can't use these sound pads. If I'm on a phone call, I can't use those sound pads. Not the end of the world for me because I have the computer and I use like Ecamm or you can use vMix if you're on a PC for streaming, so I can do different things there. But that's just one downside that's different on the pod track. But the pod track, while it can record, can't do some of the same effects. It doesn't look like it. And it is touchscreen, and it looks like it has a little less interfaces. It does have more headphone jacks, because what's nice is I can have a master headphone jack, or I can go these two out to big monitors. So if I wanted to, I could essentially mix audio on the fly for musicians. If I was out and about, I could go back to their speakers, and as they play in, I can mix that in and have it go right back out, which is pretty powerful. And it gives me these little mix areas where I can say, give me whatever's coming out of master. So take all of these channels together and put that into master. Or I can say, you get master minus your own head. You don't hear yourself talk on there. Or maybe you get music in the background, but that's not actually coming through. And then you can sing on top of it. So I can do these different mixes to the different headphones, which could be nice. But like I said, you can control your audio gain to get how much power. And it has these little lights for it. So it's a nice little tool that lets me do quite a bit. Howdy, Dr. Strange. Nice to see you on the show. Looks like first time here. Obviously, what we normally do here is we cover geek type questions, but if no one has a geek question, I'm just going to geek out on my tools that I'm playing with, my new toys. So I'm glad you joined the broadcast, though. And if you have any questions, just pop a Q in front, and I'll work my way through. Like I said, one of the next episodes, I meant to do it today, but since I was ill prepared, we're going to be talking about the exposure triangle in talking photography and how aperture and shutter speed and ISO come into play to make the perfect photograph. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this puppy in, because why not? And then we can have fun hearing this. I like that. How do you connect the flux capacitor to the transitional or translational matrix to get the desired result? Well, that's a really good one. Yeah. I do love the Back to the Future references. That's always my favorite because, I mean, it's Back to the Future, and I'm a physics geek. So, it only works, though, if you get up to 88 miles an hour. I always love the meme where it goes, hey, where the guy who gets pulled over and it's like, you made it to 87 miles an hour. It's like, oh, I know, officer. I think it was on maybe Robot Chicken. And it's like, yeah, he knew he didn't make it to 88 because he got pulled over. So it's okay to troll. I actually don't mind a level of trolling, and as long as you're entertaining, which you seem to be pretty entertaining. So I enjoy, like I said, all of the references on there. And I actually really like the way you put that one together. If I would have been more prepared, I could have come back with like a smart ass physics one, but I broke my beagle bone. Oh, I like that. Nice. Trying to make nice. I do like it. Oh, so let's plug this in. Because, of course, it helps if I would have brought my headphones down. So hopefully we don't blow out too much stuff here. And you can get to hear it. You flashed it too much? Ooh. Yeah, that can be a problem with some of those. I had one Ring doorbell for it when I first got it. It wasn't quite working how I liked, and I ended up having to redo it a few times. But I ended up having to reset it. I had to do 2 jumpers on the inside to clear it because I on accident put the wrong firmware on it, so it wasn't acting right at all, and it didn't want to let me back on there. So I was able to get it to reset and allow me to put that on. Found a little trick where if I just went on the jumpers, it cleared it out. Nice. Linux is a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of, obviously, because I have a security background. So Kali Linux, and they just came out with a new version which has all sorts of stuff for AWS and testing AWS. So I'm getting ready to re-download the new distribution of Kali so that I can mess around with the new AWS and cloud tools in this current set, which is pretty cool. But all right, we have this powered on. I'm going to power this puppy on, which means it should show up in here. We'll see if we can actually hear the effects, because we might not. I found out when you bring this through, I had a little bit of a problem and had to bring it through. I remember now. I had to bring it through my ATEM, because when this comes back, it comes back with way too many audio tracks. And so this thing, when it connects up, comes into my Ecamm software, and it's not bringing my master in as the first track. I can't reprogram that. It's a problem with, not a problem with Ecamm, it's just a limitation within Ecamm. So if I was using stuff like GarageBand, I can go find the track, or I could use something called Black Hole or Loopback to take that, I think it's track 3, that is the actual master track, and I can loop it back through into Ecamm as the main audio. But I found a little workaround that I could do the same type of thing if I just did an audio out to my ATEM Mini. And my ATEM Mini Pro can then bring the audio in. So, oh, popping that up. computer programming so quick. Yeah, but you know, there's a lot of people in computers that didn't start out in computers or they mess around with it. Some of the best ones that I used to hire people who had psychology backgrounds for my help desk because I mean they knew how to deal with people. I can teach technology. You can learn technology, and at the rate it changes, you go into school to study programming. Nowadays they teach you more of the concepts, luckily. But when I was in there, they were like, "Oh, learn Visual Basic, and learn assembly, learn this." And assembly's still around, but Visual Basic completely changed, you know. And nowadays, you know, they wouldn't have taught the type of programming that we do now. So I don't know how much it's useful for it anyway, from that point of view. Let's say, I guess I don't know what that Turing in high school like. I'd have to. I guess I don't know what Turing is. I'm probably just being dumb, or my brain's just not in it today. So I'm just probably being dumb what that is. But here, I'm going to grab a cable. So I'm going to step off just for a second because I have it in my handy dandy bag. But here we go. Audio cable. I keep all my stuff in. Oh, named after. I see. I got it now. I thought, because I was like, the name looks really familiar there, but I didn't know exactly where you're going with it. So, no, that makes more sense now. I get that. So, I'm going to pop this over. So, yeah, what I'm going to do, because I don't have a good way now that I've hooked this up via USB into Ecamm, if I did my kind of share my screen here, so if I went into live demo mode, you would see if I brought this in, I could pop in another audio and have this Zoom driver that you should be able to see now. But if I do that, it doesn't actually bring in this master track. So if I do any effects or any fun things, you won't actually hear it. So instead, since I have this black magic, I'm going to loop it through that. That's the ATEM, and kind of get around that problem without having to pay $100 for the software. Black Hole is free, and I've just been lazy to put in there. I like the look of Loopback, and I'm deciding if I want to pay for it or not. And you know, you can do so many minutes of it. But what I'm going to do is I bought this cable that does, you know, essentially quarter to a mini plug. And this mini plug is going to go into the back of the ATEM Mini Pro, which I can control audio on and off with. So I'm going to plug that in, plug this one in to my mic 1 on there. And on the ATEM, there's little buttons. I wish I could show it. I don't have my second camera hooked up right now since coming back down here. But there's an audio on and off on there that I can turn on and then control volume with. So if I plug this end in, and what's important when it comes to phantom power is it needs to be a true XLR cable. So you have to have 3 pins to 3 pins. You can't have that kind of quarter to 3 pin because phantom power can't pass through that. No, yeah. I'm not making DJ equipment. I'm just using some of it. I used to own a music store a long time ago too. So what's sad is now I'm getting back into live streaming. I'm buying all the equipment that I used to have in inventory that I wish I still had, like the cables. The cables are what kill you in price because whenever you buy all these cables, these little $10 and $20 add up more and more and more and cost more over time, you know, for you to be able to do. All right, but now that we have this in, it'd be better if I would have had my headphones. Wait, here we go. I knew I had a pair. We're going to bust out the little Apple ones because I left my other headphones not there. Let's go rock. Buy a vinyl? Yeah, I have a friend who swears by the audio on it. And I agree, you know, I like classical rock. I like classical music. I pretty much like most music. I've never been much of a country fan. Nothing again. I appreciate the art that is country music. I am just not a country music person. You know, for lack of better. I'm also not a huge rap. I actually like the old rap. because something about it was just more upbeat and friendly. But that's just me, and it's nothing against the style. It's how I am. Well, let's see here. Let's see what we can hear. It's pretty good. I actually haven't listened to it because I avoid. I did like Rascal Flats. They were kind of on that line, and Dixie Chicks were pretty good. And Rappers Delight. Yeah, for some reason I just never got a whole lot into the new rappers nowadays, and I never really got big into country. Someone with the twang a lot just kind of messes me. I like I said, I appreciate and understand their talent. It just wasn't my style. Which, heck, I like Mozart, and that's not going to be some people's style. A lot of times no one's gonna like that one. Let's see here. I'm gonna pop this in, see what we can hear, because hopefully, if I'm doing this right, and you'll be able to hear it over, we'll be able to switch, and you'll hear a little bit of the other. So let me turn that up. Test, 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 test. Ooh, test. Wow, that one sounds pretty good. So what I'm going to do is we're going to switch over, and I'm hand holding, so keep that in mind as we come and do this, is I'm going to turn on this, and we're going to switch our audio. So you're going to hear kind of a drastic change. And hopefully you're hearing me okay now. I'm going to turn up the audio just a little bit. Oh, hopefully I don't amp it out. But you can kind of hear how the audio changes. But what's cool with this type of equipment, you can definitely message me for advice. I can't speak today. I haven't whisper with quiet, whisper. Hopefully it's not too quiet. If I turn this up a little bit, you should hear me just a little bit more. And then if I turn my gain up, I can go like this and make it quite a bit louder. So this is what it would normally sound like. I'm blowing out kind of my headphones on here. Good. I'm glad. But yeah, if you have different computer questions, you can always ask and post them on. Just put Q and post them through. But what I'm going to show that's a lot of fun with this is we're going to turn on effects, because I love this part. So I can throw it through here, and then I'll show you how the buttons look. But if I select this and turn the effects up, what's really cool is I can add in all sorts of different styles. That if let me turn these dials back, and then see if I can pass this filter effect through, then we should start to hear it. Just a second. Test. Oh, For some reason that filter effect is not playing. Test. Interesting. Test. Well, that's kind of funny and sad at the same time. I go to test the feature that I've used a million times, and now it doesn't want to work, of course. So that's just funny, because now you guys aren't hearing any of the fun stuff that I was going to go do for you, and it just decided to die. Oh, I'm getting ready to make a gaming desktop. Gaming desktops are pretty cool. Those are the only desktops I kind of tell people to build anymore, because really, if you're just doing day-to-day computing, it's way cheaper just to buy an over-the-counter. But when it comes to gaming, you can put a really nice processor in there and just make sure you pair your motherboard with your video card, because if you pair your motherboard and video card properly, processors kind of go. But if you have your motherboard and video card, you can offshoot some of the computing between the two, and get way better graphics and faster return, which, as you know, if you have the right keyboard, you get different response times. In fact, my son is he coach or works with a coach and does a lot of stuff there when it comes to League of Legends. So he's really big about the different response times for his keyboard. And right now, he has his setup, but he has a friend that they go and buy a bunch of custom built ones. But it's a lot of fun to build your own. You just have to get that right combination. So I'm a big fan of AMD processors, always have been, and you can get that with a really nice MSI or gigabit or gigabyte motherboard. And oh, sorry about that. Oh yeah, $5,000 for a gaming computer. That's definitely reasonable. What's nice about when you build it yourself is if you need to, you can always upgrade it later. Just don't skimp on a few things. Don't skimp on your video card when you're building a gaming. Don't skimp on your RAM, processor, or motherboard. In which case, if you do all of that, well, Canadian might make you a little bit tighter on it, but it should be fine. Even at 2,500, yeah, you'd have plenty. But as long as you do that, you can always change cases. You can always change out, CD-ROM drive. Some people aren't even putting in CD-ROM drives anymore because everything's running off USB. So you could save there. You can decide if you want to put a cool light kit and any of that on there, or you can save the money and just put in good hardware. Like, don't get me wrong, a window kit where it lights up and you can change the colors and water cool it is really cool, but you can turn around and water cool it and do other things like that later. You can wrap up those cables and make a better airflow inside a little bit later too. So yeah, when it comes to buying parts, Amazon works just fine and just great for it. Fry's, you can get stuff from online. A lot of times you can get parts from a few different places, but they all tend to come over. Yeah, if overclock, I saw that. Overclocking, that's why I like the AMD processors. They're way better when it comes to overclocking. They always have been, just better when it comes to overclocking. You don't blow them out nearly as bad, and they're built that way. They're built with the idea that you're going to overclock them. So I like a good AMD with an ATI because they're the same company. So they have a lot of crossover, and they publish their matrix. So if you want a really, really fast combination, they kind of make these, they used to call them fusions, and I'd have to look up what they're called now. But they kind of come up with these recommendations of, hey, this motherboard with this processor with this video card is your like gold tier, and this is like your diamond tier. And so they kind of come up with those, and that really, in my opinion, that's what I like about them. NVIDIA cards can be really good. Their drivers have kind of irritated me. Over time, they've always been a little kind of funky in their driver set, and they get into wars with Intel a lot of times. So I don't like dealing with that type of stuff and having to worry about something not being compatible. So I really like the Radeons, and it depends on the month. NVIDIA leapfrogs ATI once in a while, and ATI leapfrogs NVIDIA next. So it's which one you get at what time for it, and where you're willing to kind of cut or not. But I would say, definitely make sure you have the best video card you can get, and get the best motherboard you can get at the time, and best processor to go in there. And then get fast RAM. And you can always increase your RAM. But if you're going to start with 16 gigs of RAM, get the fast RAM. Back in the day. Yeah, I use a MacBook Pro. So I'm a Microsoft certified systems engineer and all of that fun stuff. And I run Macs at home. I actually even think, and I'll be shot for it, but gaming through Fusion, like for the VMware Fusion, isn't that bad. You can switch over to Boot Camp and get a full experience if you need Windows. So running gaming on a Mac, essentially in Windows, is fine. But like, my son plays League of Legends, and it looks great on the Mac. Now, I would say I don't think Riot does a whole lot in developing for the Mac, and I think they should do a little bit more because even their betas are built for Windows. And I have a problem with places that cater only to PC gaming anymore because, let's face it, there's so many Macs out there. It's a bad business decision in my opinion. Oh yeah, like I said, they just run. I have Macs that I've had for a long time that I've sold and they're still running at people's houses. But I've had custom built PCs that do that too. When I custom build my PCs, I have a friend that I think I built one in high school and they still have it running in their daycare for the kids. That I built that my senior year or my freshman year of college. I don't know, something there, and I helped them build it, and it's still running to this day. And they've upgraded parts on it. So yeah, Ubuntu on there. That's what I like with Fusion is Fusion can take your boot camp partition and run it as a window. So you have the choice if you use Fusion to boot into boot camp, look at your and game there. But if you ever wanted to, you just boot back into the Mac OS and then launch VMware Fusion and bring up your boot camp image as a window. And so you can make modifications there, do stuff while you're doing all your normal Mac stuff, and then the next time you game, you can just reboot into your essentially gaming setup. So that's something I like because it's pretty powerful. But that's what I like about VMware Fusion and stuff for that. So I'm all for running that. Plus, I like having screenshots, or not screenshots, but snapshots that I can revert back to. So if I screw something up, or I can have multiple OSs, so I can have Ubuntu and Kali and Windows all running on the same box, and then go between them. And then obviously my boot camp one had to be Windows if I did boot camp. It's also really cool because you can load up a Mac OS. So if you know you're going to upgrade, so let's say Big Sur or one of the others, you can take an image of your current and boot it into it and actually see what it looks like when you upgrade it. But that's what I like about it. It's cool that you worked for VMware. I'm VCP, so I'm low grade VMware certified, but I've been using VMware since it was ESX2 on servers. So I installed 2.1 and made a big farm where I used to work, and I've used it for forever. Yeah, I'm actually liking the new Office coming into the Mac a little bit more. I don't like Outlook on the Mac, mostly because it doesn't let me do threaded deletes very well. So if I want to select a lot of stuff and like do a search, and then select all those and delete, it doesn't work all that well that way. But that's just them, I think, being a pain in the butt. What's that mean? Oh, all the ESX versus yeah, that's just me geeking out and being a dork at that point. I'm trying to see why this effects one is still not coming in. That is there we go. Now you guys should be able to hear it. So that's the effects area. And I can dial it down. So there's a little pad on here, and I'll show you where you can turn it up, but I can also dial up and down what the voice kind of sounds like. Yeah, this one's called Vocal 2. I can go do Vocal 1. I can sound like I'm in a chorus hall, which is kind of fun. And then I can do a delay, so if I really want to sound cool. I mean, or I can be the voice of God, is what I call this mode. It's called Hall, but I always kind of liken it to the voice of God, which is just fun. But the Canyon Echo, I like that too. So this one's even worse. But what's cool is I can dial that effect on and off. Yeah, I am the great and powerful Oz. I like that. But I can dial it in and up and down. So I can fine tune it because of this little knob on the front that's called the effects knob in the channel strip. And I can then, what's called effects return, turn the knob up and down more. So I can make it way more, or I can make it very, very, very subtle in the background to kind of play up my voice. Or I can go into what they call room, which is another one you can kind of hear. Sounds a little different, like I'm in a big room, but I can play that back just to add a little bit of tone to my voice. So if I had it on, like there, you hear just a little bit, where if I drop it out, you hear just this. So it's kind of fun. There's another plate mode, and you can kind of get this type of feel. But what's neat with it is I can actually tune those in on this little pad and return it there. And I can go right, left, and use these kind of mid, high, low. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's lots of cool stuff you can do with this. And if you return it back through, like I said, a DAW, which is just a digital audio software on your machine, then you can do even more, and you can kind of play with it. But like I said, there's some cool stuff here. There's the fun, if I was making something funny, I think if I try this, let's see. There we go. And there's other fun ones, that come in here that on these little sound pads that I can hit. And so, like I said, this is something that we're adding to the show eventually. And with that phone part where I can bring in, I'll be able to take live phone calls. And that's going to be really big, obviously, for the questions and the Geek Out part of this, because some people might feel more comfortable asking their questions live via voice. So we'll open that up along with hopefully some interviews in the not too distant future, because I have a cool new interview capability in this software. So we'll be doing that. I should probably switch back to the other microphone so I can show how this works, for some of this. So I'm going to flip back over. We'll see how that works. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm going to set that down. Pull that out of my ears so I can actually interact myself now, or interact as myself, and then I can kind of show this fun setup, because now it's actually lit, and you can kind of see the cables. Hopefully I don't drop anything here. So when I was saying it was a continuous pad, this is that channel strip I was talking about, that you can kind of see how this drops out as I turn it. And that's where I was able to turn that up. So I can turn up the effect that I was doing and then use this pad to increase it even more off and on. So I can get the desired level of the effect and then fade it in or out. And then I can do that differently for each one of these channels, because I just have to hit this little select and you'll see I get different settings. See how it reset? If I come back, it lights back up. Then you have these high, medium, and lows. Allow me to change my voice there too, in that I can cut out low things in the background, maybe play up my bass and a couple other options. And then I can change the tone of it by using this little pad to change the tone and decay of the effect that I'm playing. But with the mixer, I can do a few different things, and scene, I can do a little bit more where I can mix things in and out if I was using this for music mixing or live from that point of view. But what I really like is this recorder. It allows me to record it all to that SD, and I can record each channel individually. And that's important because let's say I want to record the master channel where everything is, mixed together. And with it all mixed together, I want to record that, but I want to record each channel individually, maybe just the guitar and maybe just the drums and just the vocal. Well, I can hit the button on each of those channels to record, and it'll record the master channel with everything mixed together as its own WAV file, and they'll record all the other ones as their own separate WAV files. Now, unfortunately, this one only saves it as WAV right now from what I can see. I'm contacting Zoom to see if they're coming out with a firmware, because the pod track allows you to record as MP3. WAV is more powerful to edit, but MP3 would save me some space. Have I ever... I actually have worked in radio. I've worked in a lot of areas, but I used to have my own radio show, or worked with it with a thing called Locker Gnome. And we used to have Gnome Radio, and I used to host that as a co-host on Sunday nights. where I would answer people's tech questions and do all that fun stuff. Well, I hope to see you back sometime, and definitely when you get ready to do that, your computer, send some notes in. If you have questions on what might make a good one, you can run them past my resident gamer and get some extra notes. But I know a few different people, and we can help get you all set up. But thanks for stopping out, Dr. Strange, and good luck on the whatever you have going on, and hope you have a good night. And then for anyone else kind of watching out in the tubes, you kind of got a little mix and learning on this Zoom and radio side, and picked up a lot of cool stuff. So because, had a good time talking with the doctor, and he brought up some really great questions that we were able to cover, little pieces on. But keep in mind, if you are watching this on the replay, you can still ask questions. Just type Q and type in your question afterwards. Email it in, leave it on the page. We'll find it multiple different ways. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and click. If you're on YouTube, click that like and that notification so you know when it's coming. We're going to do, it seems like the event part worked really well, so then that way people can that again later. And if you're on Facebook, you can catch us there at Glitch 2600. And don't forget, we also have our happy hours, which will be starting back up, where we geek out on all things wine, craft beer, and ciders, and mixed drinks, and all things like that. And also catch my friends on Boozy Banter. It's a podcast where we also talk about beer, and that's something I help produce. And you'll see me using, or you get to hear me using the Zoom live track there. So if you have questions on it, if you want me to deep dive into the Zoom, because I've been messing with it more, if you have little areas that I find little workarounds to make things better, I'm happy to share. And I really appreciate everyone stopping out. We'll have some more topics soon, and thanks again. We'll catch you guys. Keep an eye out for the next one. I'm terrible at wrapping these sometimes, but it's been a great night, and keep those questions coming, and we'll catch you on the next time.